Well, Dundee United have been dealt a very severe body blow before a ball is kicked with the absence of the most experienced player, David Neri, of that famous goal against Brazil in the World Cup in Spain. He's played 56 times in Europe, and really, without him, I feel for United, it's like taking a long bus journey without the driver. Long's got into this competition through the back door. Bordeaux, in fact, finished higher up the league than them, but Bordeaux also won the cup. They've only one French internationalist, number 4, Didier Senech. And off they go on a night that's very chilly. I'm sure the Italian referee, Claudio Pieri, will not like this, but Dundee United will. There is the Italian referee, and I would imagine he'll try to be fairly frisky to get the blood coursing through the veins on this rather chilly evening. Slung, and there's a speed of Bill trying to go round the back. Flicked away there by Guillaume. United supporters beginning to respond to this. Not noted as the most vociferous in Scottish football, but that volume of noise will be needed tonight for United. There's a testing one for Huard. When the Dundee United coaches watched this man for the first time, they thought he was small for a goalkeeper, but then his compensation is he has one almighty spring in his heel. He does get up for a little man. Well, little, relatively speaking. Round the back. Tough task tonight for Dave Bowman, trying to fill in for Dave Ned, a youngster. And when Golf went to the south, he was asked to fill in for him. Sure, he relishes this challenge tonight. Way across the far side, Kravic. The United have got this ploy at the moment of the long penetrating ball. There is no offside. Sturrock, no. Just as I said that, that was touched round there, and Jim McInally setting away Paul Sturrock, who was about a couple of yards offside. Nicely slipped through. He made the run behind the defender, but as soon as he had done that, the flag went up on the far side. I think he was waiting for Milne to get on the outside and use that speed of his. Milne being one of the, certainly the fastest wide player in Scottish football, without any doubt. Oh, lovely little turn by Sturrock. Well, that's what he's so very good at. Lucky to call him. I think that the jet foil of his ears didn't hold him back that time. He just touched it inside, but eventually there was no real threat on the shot. Quine. Dundee United will certainly miss the top goal scorer in Britain, Ian Ferguson, who's ineligible for Europe at the moment. But badly done with him. In fact, he won't be eligible for the quarter-final if United get there. Bannon. Sturrock, all on his own for United up front. Ten minutes exactly gone. A lot of United huffing and puffing, and Malpass was very easily beaten. Now there's a beautiful touch inside there by Lefebvre. And the Dundee United captain, immaculate in the way he committed himself. He scored more goals for a defender in Europe than any other existing Scottish player. Well, a hesitant performance at the moment by Malpass in defence. Difficult one for Thompson. Lefebvre again. Little bit of a warble in that shot. You can see the winger is in the mood to just A tiny little curve on it, but Thompson, body behind it. Affectionate heart. Milne should be there and is. Hegarty, the captain, crept forward. As I said, he does score goals in Europe. You'll see Sturrock dragging defenders wide with him, trying to leave space in what is always going to be a congested penalty area. Coyne was up. It just got that away, no more. Wallace, Malpass, there's a shot! Oh, superbly struck. Well, Morris is beginning to indicate a little bit of the wobbles in defence, but watch this almost total vindication of the way he crept forward and gathered down. Dundee United, midfield strung right across the field there. And Bannon comes back. Eamon Bannon, I think, is probably one of the hardest working United players. Came up from Chelsea, of course. Looked as if his career prospects were very drear, and then found rejuvenation. Redford, just a little bit too much. Linking well with Coyne. That's Malpass. A run down, there's no offside, and this is dangerous for Lefebvre. That's a superb ball inside, and a touch there by McGuinness. When I say a touch, I think he's slightly touched. Givulder going forward, and that put him right off. There you are. And fortunately for United, nobody coming in from the left. Well, Senak is a very competitive man indeed, very powerful, 6'2", very broad shoulders. Just the kind of guy you would want to avoid. There goes Milne, there is support there, swept on by Krubich. And back defending with number 9 on is De Wilder as well, and Lefebvre. Sturrock, Milne. Nicely laid back. I think it was swirling away from goal as soon as it left his foot. There were oohs and ahs from the crowd, but I think it angled very badly away. Yeah, pushing by Carino. Daniel Carino. Well, the French have been coping with that high ball on the edge of the penalty very efficiently. Well, there'll be nothing wrong with that up and under as long as it's accurate. Redford, brilliant! Superb shot. The French, and United, I think that's a free kick, but that is quite clearly the best chance of the game so far. I said Redford has only failed to score for United once in Europe, and look, he was so desperately close there. And by the way, belatedly, that was a marvellous save by the keeper. Turning by Sturrock, away it goes. That was a lady's tackle, and a good, very good recovery by Senak, the captain. Sturrock wriggling clear, but although he got Senak came back. Corner kick. Yes, they've just got to keep their head, slowly accept that pressure. I've just got a feeling they'll crack. Up they come through, they go, there's no offside. Run through there by Jim McInally, as I said, the ex-Celtic player who really, to my mind, should still be at Parkhead. Meanwhile, down at the other end, Billy Thompson is going blue with a cold. There's no way they'll get that, and there's little doubt that that wind is flipping from left to right. When I say it will benefit United in the second half, sometimes that just doesn't quite happen. Casual passing can bring breaks. That was touching by Krovic. Here's Bannon. Stoddart. That's the way he likes to turn, and away it goes. Brilliant play. Oh, about a foot offside, I would say. Well, but isn't that marvellous to see Paul Sturrock in that European form again? Coming forward is Krovic. Three minutes of this first half remaining. Neatest little touch there to De Wilde. Oof. That was a leg of McGuinness saving them. And so typical. We're approaching half-time and they put the pressure on. There's the 1-2. The captain comes forward in a long run. And he might just get through there. Well, Thompson's down on it, and that was the fingernails. Well, what happened to that United defence? Good grief. This is horror movie time. The defence looking like the petrified forest. Look at it. Nothing was happening. And at the end, that despairing touch saves United. They still have the pressure on, but away comes Bannon. They can't get it clear. This is Carino. Well, suddenly United, out of absolutely nothing, have been afflicted by nerves. I don't want to harp on it too much, but in a situation like this, and with that very narrow effort there by Carino, this is where they miss David Neri. And there goes the half-time whistle. And if I had any pills to prevent frustration down in that Dundee United dressing room, I'd be force-feeding them to the United players, because that, I think, is what afflicted them in the last few seconds of this half. I think that they have the talent and the ability and indeed the mood to beat this team tonight, but all we can look back on in that first half is that remarkable shot by Redford and a brilliant save by Howard, and surely that should blaze a trail for the second half. One of my French colleagues just along from me here at half-time was telling me that he thought Dundee United had played much better in Lens in France. I think he probably means that they were a bit more composed in defence. And in any case, any time United have played a team and lost away from home, that team coming here have never scored a goal against them. Now, that might be of crashing insignificance to you, but I find that quite interesting myself, and should inspire United tonight. A very good clustered defence by the French. There's Beaumont. He wants to go himself. United player down there, and it's Hegarty who's down. I think he's recovering. It is always very difficult to beat a team who decided to play five at the back, get everybody behind the ball when they can. Oh, that's a good move by Redford, and again he's very slow. Seems to run out of ideas. Got to get more out of the midfield than that. There it goes again, Bannon can't get in. Tries to play it wide, Redford against the white wall. And it's all very frantic in this opening session in the second half. But they're finding the openings. Coyne was screening for it. Bannon going to the line. Oh, superb jump there by Gio. And the French will have to have a very steady nerve at the moment. Number 6, Grovic, trying to cool it down, stroke it around, and away goes Bannon. There's no offside. It's Coyne. Straight in and goal, and Scudder certainly committed himself. Straight into that defence, and timid ice, erupting in sound. Well, United have flexed the muscles right away, and that's Sturrock looking transfixed at the post. It must have dipped and swerved very sharply into his body. That surely is the only feasible explanation of why he stood and watched it. Yes, it was like an off-break. Hegarty. Coyne. And they'll be kicking the ball virtually anywhere. It's got to be very cool by United as well. Mix of fire, enthusiasm and iciness. Nice turn round there by McGuinness. He may just have got a touch off the Frenchman. No, he didn't. I watched Gary McGuinness playing the Azteca Stadium for the Scotland youth team several years ago, so he knows all about the big time. He played in front of 103,000 that night, which is almost not all that far short of the population of the city of Dundee. Eric de Wilde. That went to begging slightly. It was Bannon back defending for United. Now Paul Stark pushed from the back. Yes, Italian referee striding out freely now, by the way. Paul Stark. McTrinelli with a ball and spectacularly taken. Guyton Huard. And so far the tactics paying off for the French. Little gift there to McGuinness. Too obvious. And McInally literally stepping over the ball that time and taken away there by Lefebvre. Oh, 1 against 1. Tremendous pace there by Eugeni. And David Nery's step in, as it were, stand in, coming to the rescue. The French looking very dangerous on the break. That was Lefebvre trying to turn on it. And wisely playing it back to the goalkeeper. Yes, he's setting an example of not becoming reckless. Mighty clearance by Thompson. Beautiful little touch inside. Now McInally. That's a touch. Sturrock. He didn't realise the ball was still in his vicinity. Stan below is rising to the feet, urging on United. A bit too obvious. Oh yes, they're playing coolly now, the French. Refusing to be pressurised. Playing it in little triangles. And getting almost cornered. Well, that goes a begging. Nobody went for it. Terrible misuse of the ball inside. A run forward by Sturrock. It's Sturrock for United. The goalkeeper is out. Here is Ralph Milman, a chance, he's done it! Yes! 1-0 for United. Of the second half gone, and United have taken that very precious lead. The French, who had boxed themselves in eventually, taken on by Sturrock, the goalkeeper, had gone walkies, and there, deadly, was the left foot of Ralph Milne. An eruption that will be heard on the other side of the River Tay. Thoroughly deserved. Now, blue jersey, red face as he went for that, and a cluster of players, Milne finding the tunnel. Meanwhile, away in the far side, a free kick to Lens. Got to hold steady, and I'm not quite sure what he had in mind there. Probably to try and bring in Carino away from the left. Another mighty kick-off by Thompson. Beginning to knock it about. Can he hold it? He has no. Another one now would kill off this team. Sturrock, little too tight by Boris Malpas. The alert little figure of, well, little, I think he would object to me calling him little, but little by comparison with some others. There's a figure of Malpas. A little wobble at the start, Malpas then came on to a very secure game and very adventurous going forward. Here's McGuinness. He'll get the return. There was a hand there. Now part of the Woods, he would be booked for that. Jim McLean, who usually sits on the stand, is now in the dugout. That doesn't mean there's going to be a pitch invasion shortly. It just means that his players will certainly hear what he has to say. So, Eamon Bannon in midfield with the free kick. United captain Hegarty has gone up. And it's a bit soft on the floor, Beaumont. One of the many young players whom Jim McLean has developed along the years. McLean, one of the best developers of young talent in British football, without any question. Still in play, and away goes Catalano. United fighting hard for it now. Not just the technique, but the spirit. The name and Bannon beautifully inside. No! There is an open field for a penalty. And Will rushed over to the linesman. Jim McLean, out of camera, almost went berserk, lost a blood vessel and raced on. And decided to field for a penalty there by United. Sturrock. Bannon. Here's McInally. There's no onside. Milne. Must be the chance it is. Coyne. 2-0 for United. That, to a certain extent, after 14 minutes, is an indication of a defence coming apart at the seams. They ought not to have given Milne that latitude and the sheer persistence of trying. putting Dundee United now in a very strong position indeed. Now, back at the ranch, we're having some sagas on the dugout. I think the French players came across to complain. They were joined by the manager. You can't accuse him of being drunk because that's some mineral water he's got in his hand. Good positioning by the youngster Coyne, who's already scored a couple of goals for United in Europe. That is his third. I certainly, in picking out any of the French, would pick out the captain, Senac. He's a really quality player, the only French internationalist in this team. Very good on the ground and in the air, and has come forward just at the right moments. And I think the crowd are realizing that the hands of the clock are approaching the end of the game. But there's still really, as far as the French are concerned, only one goal in it. You can hardly say United are hanging on in one sense because they've been so superior. And yet, arithmetically, I suppose it's still in there, just inches in front and no more. (2-1) in aggregate, 3.5 minutes remaining. And there is Dave Bowman with that little ungainly pirouette. I think one of the French players coming way across here for the ball. Well, makes sense, doesn't it? Now, it's at a stage like this that a manager in the dugout must have one of the most moments of tension. So near yet so far. Well, you see how they could sneak in. There was Bowman again. They've gone in the clear and swept away. McAnally in there. Anxious moments for Dundee United. And yes, I suppose I have to say it, can they hold out? There's Bowman. And that will do, relieving the pressure. Let me give full credit to the French. I was about to say for rolling their sleeves up, but somebody... So different in the way they applied themselves. 1 minute left. 1 minute between Dundee United and the next round of the UEFA Cup. It's a handsome prospect, but they must keep playing. Stunnock. Goalkeeper forced into that, and that defence begins to look a little tired. Bowman. Great performances in the second half by Eamon Bannon. Milne certainly justified his place for that very good goal. And one or two of these Dundee United players looking quickly across to the dugout to get some indication of time left. I can tell them they're only 15 seconds, and Redford held back in that. Ramos. Oh, what a tackle by Redford. He's trying the long one. I think he must have watched Kelly doing that way in the past. There's offside. I think some of the spectators thought it was time up, which it is not. It is still 2-0. Maurice Malthus has it. I think he's almost gone inarticulate, Jim McLean. I'm sure he knew where he put his tongue there. And he certainly never is, I can assure you of that. We're now well into stoppage time. Nice touch there. Dave Bowman. Well, he should take his time about this. Let players come towards him. Thumped by Malthus, got up. Nobody picking up in midfield for United, though. Bowman comes forward. Oh, beautifully shielding that, Kravic. Now, Catalano, and there is Billy Thompson. Corner kick, though. Now, let me look down at this once again. I make it with about a minute and a half into stoppage time. And United will have to remain very icily cool. It's difficult for us up here, let alone them down there. The corner kick. That's a touch, and I think the push, it's not the final whistle. The referee indicating a push. That was what you might call an anticlimactic false alarm. Nervous kind of cheer surrounding Tannadice at the moment. It should go any second. And there it is. Dundee United, thoroughly deservedly, go into the next round of the UEFA Cup. Great performance by them in the second half. The opening goal by Ralph Milne is exactly the kind of tonic they needed to lift them. And then Coyne, the young lad who scored already twice for Europe. And there is Ralph Milne, relating himself to the terracings which I think had been tending to bore him earlier on. And his personal performance simply exemplified Dundee United's superiority. And another healthy night at Tannadice for United and Scottish football.
Yes, an anxious few moments at the end there, because even a 2-0 win at home is no guarantee of success when you've lost 1-0 away from home in Europe. But another very fine United performance in European competition. Here's what Jim McLean had to say afterwards.
Well, Jim, once again you've come from behind in a very exciting European game it was, but how would you rate that to some of the others at Tannadice in the past?
Well, I think in the past we probably have played a bit better than we did tonight. But the pleasing thing for me personally is the fact that the amount of new players we had out there tonight, Gary McGuinness, Jim McInally and people like that, hardly ever played in European ties before, and David Bowman at the back.
Yeah, were you worried in not having David Nery because he's your most experienced player in Europe?
Very much so, especially in the home leg, because we know that they had pace up front, that they would be attempting to catch us on the break, and his experience and his pace at the back is tremendous.
Now, I thought you should have been one up anyway, at least in the first half, but you weren't. And I suppose some people are going to turn around and say, Dundee United, a second-half team again. Now, is that so, in fact? And,
well,
if so, why?
Well, I think that we've got to put it in its right perspective. First and foremost, other teams are most certainly working hard to stop Dundee United playing, because we've got a reputation for being a good football side. But as we found it difficult in the last 5 minutes, with the effort that our players had put in to the game earlier by pressure on the French side, the Scottish sides are finding the same in the second half as well against us. And therefore, if we keep winning the games in the second half, I'll be quite happy.
There was a nice little gesture at the end when Ralph Milne applauded the supporters, but just early on in the game, I thought they might have been getting at him across that far side. It's good to see that a player can come back strongly like that.
Well, I'm glad you've mentioned Ralph Milne. Ralph Milne's European record is tremendous. It's second to none. And I took a right chance tonight playing Ralph Milne, because the supporters really love Kevin Gallagher, and Kevin Gallagher is a tremendous player for us.
Was that a big gamble on your part?
It was, if you don't see the way Kevin has been playing in recent matches. And supporters really are blinded by the players who really please them, and at times they're conned, not necessarily the player deliberately trying to con them, but I've got to pick the team on the performances that I think the players are turning in at the moment. And beyond any shadow of doubt, Ralph Milne proves that decision completely correct. And the most important thing is that it's given Kevin another game of a rest, because Kevin Gallagher has been asked to carry far too much earlier in the season.
Well, I know, as I said to you earlier, it's a sore point with you. You're going to be at the Skull Cup final on October 26th, and you're going to be with us working, Jim. You're looking forward to that?
Very much so, and I think you've got to be 100% honest. I think that in the final at the moment, I'll probably get lynched for saying this, but for 15 years you can't change. And I think that the two best sides in Scotland at the moment are playing in the final. I think that we probably have played some exceptional football at times, but I couldn't say that at the moment Aberdeen or myself are entirely happy with the way we're playing, and I think at the moment the two best sides are playing in the final.
Well, you're helping me, so brush up the adjectives.
Thank you.
Jim McLean, admirably honest as always, and it's good to see United in that draw on Friday morning. Well, John, you really have to look at United's record at Tannadice. They're a remarkable European side at home, aren't they?
Marvellous record they've had up there. I've seen quite a few of their games up there in the last 3 years. They're a very difficult side to beat, Tannadice. I had to laugh at Jim McLean just now. He's quite right, actually. It doesn't really matter when you score the goals as long as you win the match. I've seen United a few times this season, and they seem a different side in the second half. But as he says, sometimes you have to do all the work in the first half to get the benefit in the second 45 minutes. And in a European tie especially, you have to be patient. So it's a good result for Scotland again.
And you know more than most, I mean, that's a great feeling when a manager gambles and it comes off. I mean, he dropped Kevin Gallagher, who must be one of the best prospects in the game just now, brings in Ralph Milne, and it comes off and Milne scores.
Well, that's the way the game isn't. You're either a hero or you're the villain. That's the part and parcel of being a manager. That's why they get so much money.
Yeah. And that French side, they were no fools. I remember talking to Jim just after he went on the spying trip, and he said, this is a tough one for us, because the French are a good side.
Great. That French side tonight was very good. It was like the international side the French had in the World Cup. They didn't panic. They played football. In fact, they lost the first goal by trying to be too clever in defence.
Yeah. Good result for United. Good to see them through.